It is time to talk about what we read and recommend from the month of March. Oh my gosh, I am excited, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm also feeling a little bit out of commish right now because it is that time of the month. I'm sorry. This is a casual channel where I want to be more for real and feel like less performative and like putting something on, but at the same time, I want to put on something. Things are a little bit rough right now.
I'm not gonna lie, my neighbors are incredibly loud in this video. It's really crazy. I blocked it out, I think. I really didn't hear them as I was talking, but I hear them now. So if you have to bow out, I get it. But if you could stick around and just know one like does in fact equal one prayer, I would appreciate it.
But we still prevail. We are going to be talking the books I read and recommend, also the ones I did not read. Let's actually start off with that. You know, we say like, oh, DNF this, TBR that. Nobody's talking about the DNS. They didn't even start. This first book that I have is a booktuber book written by somebody who I've been a longtime subscriber of, but just knew better than to start this because I just know it's not in my taste, and I don't think that I would be very fair in picking this up and reviewing it knowing that I likely would not enjoy it. It is none other than the book that is not about boyfriends, girlfriends. It's just friends by Haley Pham. Okay. This really boils down to, I recognize that as somebody who makes book videos, that if I made a video on this at the time that it had come out, I think that it would get some attention, which would be valuable for me. But I think I really did wrestle with the fact that I'm not interested in romance. This book is a second chance romance, and I followed Haley Pham before she got into book content at a time where I feel like I related to her a little bit, and as I'm growing older, I think that our book tastes are just very different. So I was like, let me just be so for real with myself. I'm gonna pick this up and be one of the people that's reviewing this book in like a much harsher manner. And I think that honestly, the demographic of the people that are enjoying this, they're not always Christian teens and preteens, but I feel like that's the demo. Another book I just did not even start, but one I was very curious about that I'm gonna start one day. The Just Friends, I might just for the heck of it just start it, just to see what the heck, just to see. But a book I know that I'm gonna read later is Hood Feminism by Mkay Kendall. Okay, so this book is a collection of essays critiquing mainstream feminism for ignoring basic needs of women, particularly women of color, and argues that issues like food insecurity, poverty, and access to education are central feminist concerns. And I just have no choice but to attempt to read that, because how could I not? As much as I enjoy a good collection of essays, I find it hard to do the start and then get to the finish. Aside from the things I did not start, there are things that I did pick up and learn. And those are my new word alerts. New words alert. I learned a lot more than 5 new words, but I just wanted to share some of them so we can all learn together. Because one of the best things about reading to me is the gaining new perspective, and then also like learning is really cool. I like that about nonfiction, even though nonfiction is hard because it can be boring sometimes. Anyway, here are the new words that I learned. All right, affectation, essentially just kind of putting on a type of persona that is unnatural or forced. Interesting. Errant, behaving wrongly or moving about aimlessly or irregularly. If you have a husband with ADHD, that errant. He errant. My husband, errant. I have the wrong definition here for spruik. Spruik is to promote, advertise, or tout a product, service, or idea, often in a persuasive, loud, or public manner. That definition I have is for anthropomorphize. That's from one of my older videos. And then abseil, to steep a cliff or rock while attached to a rope. pushing against a slope or rock with your feet. So like kind of the act of rock climbing, but you could also not be rock climbing while you're doing it, I suppose. I really debated like if I wanted to explain those, because I don't know, we're all adults here, we can all read, but I mean it's kind of cooler if I just say them. The first book that I have, I'm gonna keep it Sabrina Carpenter, a little short and sweet, because I already covered this on my channel before. This was my blind date with a book called Joan is Okay. So this is a novel focused on a very stoic woman named Joan, who the whole book is trying to figure out if she's okay. And the conclusion is kind of no, like kind of not, because this book is set right before COVID and then eventually goes diving into COVID. Right as she's diving into COVID, or right before her dad dies. And then also she's a 36-year-old doctor in COVID. But then also has Asian American descent. She's second generation immigrant. So on top of like grieving, she's also dealing with the social, just the racism of what it is to be, of what it was to be an Asian American in COVID. I struggled with it I struggled with the first part because I couldn't really relate to her personality of the stoicism, but she does let you in slowly but surely throughout the book, and I really do feel like this is one of my more top recommended books of this, because the way that the information is presented, it goes from starting off with a wall built to that wall slowly falling down, but also being packed with humor, and also highlights grief in a very interesting way. I gave this book a 4-star because the humor and grief of it, I think, was done so well, and I really think it is hard to balance humor and grief well. Next, we have a book that I was eagerly anticipating called Jane and Dan at the End of the World. This is a book by Colleen Oakley. I also forgot to say the last author's name, Waiki Wang. I will do that every once in a while where I'll literally, like, if I'm recommending a book or talking about a book, I won't say the author's name, I won't say the characters' names, I won't say, there will be so many things I'll leave off. This is a casual channel, just by the way. I'd read a book by Colleen Oakley called The Mostly Untrue Story of, I forget the people's name. Oh, The Mostly Untrue Story of, insert the name I forgot. A stranger recommended that to me, actually, and I found it to be such an endearing, beautiful book. It was on a elderly woman and her caregiver, and they had become fugitives because the elderly woman decided that she wanted to up and run away and was going to pay her caregiver to kind of support her along the way. The elderly woman, you find out, is kind of playing more aloof than she is, and she has valid reason to be running away. And it was a really interesting tale of seeing the connection between two very different people, very different generations, and then also kind of deconstructing what you might think about the older woman and what you might think of I don't know if the character was supposed to be Gen Z or millennial, but what you might think of those types of people and melding them together. Anyway, so I was very much looking forward to this story because I enjoyed the first book so much. This is a thriller mystery about a couple who is on the brink of divorce. As they are at their like anniversary dinner, the wife, whose name is Jane, is going to break it to her husband that she wants a divorce, and she's been thinking about this for a while. And so the book kind of course goes into Jane's perspective as to why she's wanted the divorce, how she feels undermined in their marriage and their relationship as a whole. And so she's out to dinner with her husband Dan, and as she's explaining the situation, they get held up in a hostage situation. What the heck? It's at like this nice fine dining situation, this nice restaurant. She's noticing that as she's in this hostage situation, the things that are being done are mirroring the things that she has written in her own book because she is an author. And so she's trying to tell her husband Dan, like, this is what's happening in my book, but then also trying to figure out, like, how do I communicate to this person who I just said I want a divorce from, and like, is the divorce a priority at all? Very interesting. I gave this book a 2.5. Oof. The factors for me that played into this lower rating were just I feel like I really enjoyed the first book so much because they did the speaking on what it means to be one generation to another, and it was very fair for both. But I feel like this, I don't want to say fell prey to making Gen Z look stupid, but I feel like this was not really fair to the younger audience because it really did kind of feel like it didn't sit well with me. The plot is interesting when you hear about it, but then when you go into the book, I just realized like, oh, I kind of want this, I'm kind of hoping to speed this up so I don't have to listen for too much longer. And although I'm interested in what happens at the end, because you're kind of wondering like, is the divorce gonna happen? Are they gonna die? What's gonna happen like with their families? Are their families concerned? As much as I was curious about that, I was also kind of like, I would rather this be like spoiled to me. I don't really want to have to sit through this, but I did. I just sat through it and wasted my time for the sake of wanting to know instead of wanting to just get, you know, that bit of information. But I did not enjoy the journey. I kind of just wanted to know about the events that were gonna happen, so I just sat through it. But like and then ironically, I would recommend this to somebody who, if you find this interesting, it might hit you different than it hit me, especially if you're not a younger person. This probably won't offend you as much as it offended me, because I feel like they made her daughter really not that smart. Same with some of the people that were holding them hostage. I feel like there's a valid critique somewhere in this that I don't even have the energy to put in place, of critiquing critiquing the way that older people write younger people and not really viewing them as valid intellectuals, kind of just viewing them as like directionless souls with like some good ideas, but ultimately just don't. Next book that I read is this book called Black Moses, which is a historical nonfiction on this man who existed. His name is Edward Mkay. He was somebody who I believe it starts in the 1800s, attempted to establish a fully black state within the US. This is a story that is about the importance of trying, why we cannot stop trying, and why being daring enough to try is worth remembering it all. That is a quote from the book that I found very... American history for me when I was growing up was very difficult to sit through as somebody who's in like a fully white suburb, really conservative suburb, because when you're learning about not only slavery but then after of emancipation, I didn't really want to think about the progression of Black life and Black liberation, because feels like there's a lot of shame there. A book like this has reminded me the importance of being reminded of that, of thinking of that, of placing importance in Black liberation, because I really didn't put much, if any, thought into, okay, yeah, after slavery was outlawed, what happened to the Black people that just did not have housing? What happened to the Black people who immediately were like into segregation and needed to work to live but weren't able to work? Like, what happened to those people who wanted to be liberated but could not find a way? Here comes Edward Mkay, who had the idea for a sole Black state, who at the time had this idea of Black people, who reminded Black people that it is important to try to make steps to live on your own terms. So the idea of having a fully Black state you can see as being desirable because it is a way to ensure your own safety within your own area, as opposed to not being safe anywhere else because you can't. I did not rate this book, and I'm gonna be honest, I struggle with historical fiction. Whoa. Hello? I'm sorry. If you hear my cat, just know she's not struggling. She just loves attention. She's just an attention whore. She's not dying. This reminded me of the importance of history, of the importance of even what it means to try to liberate yourself, to liberate your people, to not even just to liberate yourself, but just to like learn about Black stories from Black people specifically. Oh my god. This is a great story to know. But it was also a little bit hard because I think that I'm just one of those people where the line of being informed and also being entertained is something that I like really need to have like in tandem, but that is also a crippling flaw of like, you don't always need to be entertained within your books. Like some books are really just like informative and like need to be informative. They don't need to make you ha ha hoo hoo ha, you know? This is a book that is for you to gain information about an important figure. I'm not rating this, but I would highly recommend, especially if you are interested in history and you are somebody that doesn't mind like not being titillated and entertained, and puts emphasis on gathering information from books. This is for you. Next we have Homebodies. So this is one of the other books that I read that I made a video about, so I'm not going to speak too much on it, but this is about a woman named Mkay who is a lost soul living in New York with her girlfriend, is in a difficult position at work because the book starts off with her at this work party where one of her coworkers kind of whispers in her ear, hey, I heard your job is going to be up for grabs. I hear that they're shopping your job around. They're going to find somebody to replace you. Oh, imagine. No, I can't. I can't even. She eventually is let go. She eventually has to move back home. She has problems with her girlfriend. You realize that like she really is a lost person. She's kind of a what's the word? Psychological liar, compulsive liar. But she also is just somebody that's trying to get through life and to be seen fully for the person that she is, and she really struggles to do that. And this book, I feel like, is half the liberation of half the exploration of trying to figure out the insecurity of being Black in a fully white workspace, and then also like figuring out your own self-worth, figuring out your own journey, your own passion, you're going through your own depression. But then it also is kind of half a romance where she ignites something with someone from her hometown, and it kind of half felt like this is a book with a cartoon cover. I give this a 3.75 because I think the themes were so strong and they were things that I highly identified with, but I don't know, it just felt like it was two different books in one. Everyone on this train is a suspect. I just finished this book. This is a mystery. It's the second in a series, although you could read it as a standalone. You don't have to read the first book. I highly recommend reading the first book because that's what made me want to read this one. And the first book, I'm gonna just immediately confirm, is better than this one. Okay, so this is a series based off of this guy. His name is Ernest Cunningham. He is an amateur detective who got into being an author by sharing his story of finding out how everyone in his family has killed someone. That is the title of the first book of the Ernest Cunningham series. The first book is very interesting because it does dive into all the ways that you realize all your relatives could have killed someone in different methods. And it was also it's witty, funny, clever, all the synonyms of that, but still very strong, and doesn't feel like it's making a spectacle of itself. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but in the moments that need emotional depth, they have emotional depth, but you can still laugh a lot. There's a lot of humor in it. If you're looking for a mystery with humor, this is one of those. So at this time in this book, he gets involved in this crime writing festival. He gets invited as a speaker, and he's amongst all of these other authors. These authors are so catty, so petty. There's just a lot of like tension in the air because it feels very competitive. And of course, amongst a bunch of thriller crime authors, a murder has to take place. Amongst all of the authors, amongst all of this tension, amongst everything, everyone on the train is a suspect. So I gave this book a 3-star. I think I gave Everyone in My Family's Killed Someone maybe a 4-star, maybe a 3.75, because I think I read it physically, and I think that I thought that Ernest Cunningham's voice was going to be a little bit different, and I read this one on audio, and I'm not going to lie, my own preconceived notions I think ruined the audio for me just a bit, because the author is very, like I said, witty, clever, funny, also Australian author. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but the Aussie humor, like I know anything. The Aussie humor, the like way that things were said in my head in the first one, I think did not line up with the person who was reading this second book. So I feel like, honestly, if I'd maybe just read this in my own words, it would have been different. So a little bit of on the lower rating side, but not horrible. Really, overall, I enjoyed a lot of these stories. I wouldn't want to not read some of these. I didn't DNF a book. I think that's the thing, is like, if I had just had the courage to just DNF some of these, I think I might have read a little bit more 4 stars, but I think there's a lot of value in pushing through and dissecting the reasons why you didn't enjoy something and pondering it, as opposed to just being done with it. Sometimes it's valuable, sometimes it's not. I don't know, but I tried this time. That's all I had. Let me know if you have read any of these books yourself. Let me know what is on your what you read last month, what's on your April TBR. Hopefully I'll be coming out with an April TBR. I really want to, but do I have it in? I don't know. Wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever time of day it is, I hope you have an amazing morning, afternoon, or night.